Every day, millions of people engage in therapy, meditation, and mindset work. The personal development industry is massive, yet a persistent feeling of being stuck remains for many. We often treat this resistance as a lack of discipline or unresolved emotional baggage. We attempt to solve a structural, biological issue by treating it as a psychological problem. For decades, science treated DNA as a fixed blueprint. This model suggested you were born with a code that predetermined your health, behavior, and limitations. When we accept the idea that it's in our genes, our biology becomes an inescapable cage. It justifies why change feels impossible, regardless of how much mental effort we exert. Epigenetics shifted this understanding by showing that DNA is not a closed book. It is an open document, continuously edited by the way we live our lives. Emotional states, recurring thoughts, chronic stress, and environmental conditions all alter gene expression. Your biology is actively responding to these signals in real time. From this perspective, the body isn't broken when it manifests anxiety or illness. It is operating exactly as instructed by the environment it inhabits. If the human body functions as a constantly listening receiver, the question of whether change is possible takes a secondary role. We have to look closer at what those biological instructions have actually been. Dr. Bruce Lipton's work on cellular perception identifies the cell membrane as an active receiver. The membrane contains receptors that function as antennas, reading the environment outside the cell. These receptors respond to physical chemistry, and they also read the signals carried by human consciousness itself. When we operate in a state of stress, these signals cause the cell to shift into a defensive survival posture. Elevated emotions, like gratitude or awe, change the physiological instructions sent to the cell. Rhythmic, coherent signals allow the system to move into a state of growth and repair. The challenge is interference. This is the invisible environment of inherited values and cultural fears that were installed in our systems before we had the ability to question them. Chronic anxiety and a sense of unworthiness are rarely organic traits. They are often historical programs acting as biological static, drowning out the body's natural potential. This static often predates our own lives. Epigenetic inheritance is the process by which severe trauma leaves a physical stress signature that can be passed down through generations. Modern biological studies have found measurable genetic changes in the descendants of major 20th century trauma survivors. The stress experienced by a grandparent can be reflected in the biology of a grandchild. Extreme stressors like famine or displacement force ancestral nervous systems to encode survival biology into the family line. This was a necessary adaptation for them, but it remains active in us today. This means the stuckness you feel is often the biological echo of ancestral survival. You carry a physical weight that was never yours to hold. There is a common misconception that DNA activation involves unlocking superhuman powers. This framing moves the focus away from the practical, biological reality. From a biological perspective, activation is the process of removing the distortion so your original signal can broadcast clearly. It is about clearing the static so the receiver functions as intended. As we clear chronic stress and unconscious fear, the survival circuits stop dominating the system. This allows your body's sovereign biological architecture to come back online. Personal evolution is the act of peeling back the noise of inherited programming until only your original biological truth remains. Transformation begins with the nervous system regulation. When we down-regulate the stress response, we perform a physical act of cellular reclamation, moving the body out of defensive survival. Next is emotional coherence. Processing inherited grief or fear changes the hormonal environment your cells are bathed in, providing a new set of instructions to your biology. The ultimate biological lever is identity reconstruction. By choosing and embodying a new self-concept, you send a continuous, evolutionary signal into your physiology. Because your DNA functions as a responsive receiver, you are no longer a victim of inherited history. You have the capacity to consciously author the biological story you live today and the one you pass on to the future.